you saw. You will be seeing quite a few of the things how we are driving big innovations on some of the things, some of the most challenging environment as well. So those sessions will be handled today as well. But definitely we are looking forward to you guys to be very interactive. So feel free, even when we are doing the session, I'm going to hand it over to Keith to talk about, it's like outcome-driven cybersecurity implementations and monitoring and all that. But on top of that, keep on asking the questions, and those questions will be answered. So please go ahead, Keith, take it over.
Yeah, thank you, Chandra. First off, thank you again for the partnership. I do apologize for my voice. I was at a Cincinnati Reds game last night, and they won. It was a partner event from a client perspective, and we had a lot of great conversations specifically around XDR. But I do appreciate the partnership, Chandra, and the time today. I think where I wanted to start ultimately is centered around what I learned at Gartner. So Gartner throws a security summit every year. Also, there's some risk management that's thrown in there too. And they provide insights on all the things that they've been able to gather from the CIOs, CISOs, C-suite, VP of technology, when they're talking to large Fortune, say, 5,000 customers. And it's always insightful for me to be able to attend the breakout sessions because these are actual analytics from the interviews that they had performed, which gets me insights into what those CISOs, CIOs are thinking about. One of the topics that came by way of that was this concept of outcome-driven metrics and protection level agreements, specifically around how we elevate our XDR conversations. Where I see a lot of CIOs and CISOs, I think where they're challenged is in many facets. But one is the world continues to evolve at a quick pace. Maggie said it best, there are a lot of persistent threats. And there's some divide here on can we get down to where we're providing some level of peace and understanding within our network. And as a service provider, an MSSP, my goal is to keep my team hyper-focused on what matters to the businesses that we're serving. And so if we can understand the metrics by which that they themselves are kept to, so KPIs or others, then we can hold ourselves responsible for those. And then we can speak about those often, whether it's risk scores or other things, but then also thoughtfully put together a move from just general service level agreements to more protection level agreements. And I'll talk about what that is as we move forward. So if I look at it, how can we move to more outcome-based kind of discussions? Well, I look at it, we got to move from tools to outcomes. I think oftentimes as sellers, we get hung up in really focusing in on feature functionality. And at the end of the day, I think that it's such an ubiquitous landscape that we need to really focus on what the customer situational items are, what their pains are, what impeding events that they may have, and then look to work backwards in how we can map that to our services that we provide. Rather, I think we get stuck in, please take a look at this shiny thing, or please let me allow to do a demo of this like auto-remediated function. Sometimes I think we get lost because some of those things to the CIOs and CISOs are just table stakes. And so what I found is that XDR is more than just a technology stack. Really, it's a promise to reduce risk and increase resilience. That's a different mindset for many. By way of you working with us, Mr. Customer, I promise that I will help you reduce your risk and increase your cyber resilience. That's a really powerful statement, rather than I'm going to respond to you because I get an alert. Or, you can expect that I will reach out proactively. If I see something, I'll say something. That's good unto itself, and I think those things are what I would, again, label as table stakes. But clients really don't want the noise. Clients want results. They don't. Oftentimes, I think we think as service providers that we got to send them a lot of alerts in order to say that we're doing a lot of things for them in the background. I understand that from a mental perspective, from a volume perspective, that, oftentimes, if we don't reach out to them proactively, then they may not know that we're doing anything for them, even if the alert is really nothing to pay attention to. But in reality, I think clients want results. I had the opportunity to hear from kind of a VP of service at a very large organization. And he said to me something very thoughtful. He said, hey, listen, I trust that you guys are providing a level set of security, but you have all our data and it's coming into your platform. What else can you tell me that can help me make better decisions? So things around maybe his DNS traffic, or things around what applications he's using on his network, or what countries that he may be visiting with his data. How can he operationalize internally those things in order to put in maybe some action plans to help reduce risk and then increase his overall cyber resilience? And that was very thoughtful from him, and I appreciated it. And that's been my driver for years now, is to move away from this tool or this thing or this widget to more outcome. So the key takeaways from me from Gartner was around these two areas, and I'll touch on what that means for both. So if we look at business outcomes or outcome-driven metrics, it goes beyond alerts, and it really shows measurable impact. So my team really is hyper-focused on talking about mean time to detection or mean time to respond. Those words, those acronyms, they resonate a lot with CIOs and CISOs because it shows up in all their seminars they go to, all the things that they read, maybe things on their social. And it's because these have become more of a standard, like RTO and RPO in the backup world, MTD, MTTD, and MTTR, or those type of things. And so we need to be speaking to them. We need to be educating the customer on them. And we also need to illustrate these are metrics by which that they could expect that we would provide to them. And ideally, what we're trying to do is decrease that dwell time in the environment by reducing that risk. Yes, I shared yesterday, I was at a partner event. I really hit on dwell time and breakout time and really walked the customer through an adversarial position by which that they spend a lot of time and effort dwelling in the environment for a long time and then ultimately trying to break out to the next iteration or next point of attack. And helping a customer navigate this and say, hey, look, we are putting in a thoughtful platform that we want to make sure that covers you from a risk. So if they're dwelling in your environment for a length of time, that is risk to you. So we want to find them, right? And our ability to detect them, MTTD, is then married with our ability to respond, right? So MTTR. They go hand in hand. Dwell time and breakout time are just components. But we've got to pivot in our thought process and how we speak to those in leadership, because they're the ones that are funneling the dollars in order to pay for the service or the platform. So we got to speak their language from the executives in the boardroom. So risk reduction is something very key to them. Operational uptime is key to them. Regulatory compliance, very key to them. So if we can map what we're doing for them from a service, also a platform, speak their language, then we can then understand better their business outcomes. And then honestly, just digging into what matters to them, what's top of mind for them, what's their initiatives, and then see if what we're providing to them can enhance those conversations when they go and ask for funding or strategic initiative alliances. Maybe they're putting a roadmap together. So if we pivot over to this idea of protection level agreements, really what we're defining is a promise of protection. So it's not just SLAs. So everyone on this call is very familiar with service level agreements. It's our ability to respond. How fast will we respond? And if alert comes in, if we deem it critical, I will respond, Mr. Customer, in 1 hour. If it's a P2, maybe I'll respond in 2 hours or 4 hours, right? They understand that that's been a long-standing staple, but what is not is protection level agreements. These are security outcomes. So if we are offering a 24/7 human-led monitoring of critical assets, and then we have AI and machine learning behind it, because I think in talking to a lot of CIOs and CISOs, they're still a little leery in the ability for AI to do everything itself, and they expect that there is still human in the loop, if you will. And so this idea that someone is still there, making some key decisions, some analytical things, right? The ability to make a judgment. AI and machine learning are awesome because I think that they can accelerate our ability to be responsive and to do containment. But in reality, I think we don't want to lose sight of the human loop and being able to provide that level of clarity to our customers. And an example of this kind of SLA versus PLA is really around this idea of a critical alert triage. So we're using the word triage very methodically here, that we will triage this within 15 minutes versus we're going to respond to an alert ticket, right? Hey, Mr. Customer, this alert came in, we tell you about it. That's a much different thought process. Then you look at something like a containment action. So maybe we can contain whatever it is that we saw within 30 minutes versus, hey, Mr. Customer, we got an incident, we're acknowledging it to you, and we'll provide a next level update. So I think for me, it really kind of had me step back a second and look at how we are providing services to our customers. Because if you think about it, if you move from an SLA to a PLA, then what you can do is, based on what the customer's budget is, size and scope of the organization, you might be able to adjust the PLA up or down in order to fit their bill. So maybe you could tell a customer, hey, Mr. Customer, I know you can't afford critical alert triage in 15 minutes, but what if we moved you to 30 minutes or an hour? So then you're allowing the customer to be involved in our responsiveness to them and our ability to take care of it. But then it allows us on our side to control how much level of effort is required to service this customer. So to me, this is a different conversation. We're looking at, okay, if the outcome is that we want to contain and isolate, then we just work backwards in thoughtfully crafting a solution that can meet both the customer's budget, but then also level set them that as they move forward in their security maturity, we can up level that or down, depending on the circumstances. So really it creates a more shared understanding of what's protected and how fast, and we move from we'll respond to support requests to we will stop the bleeding, right? So again, it's a different way to have a conversation with a customer, different way for them to buy into what it is that we're providing to them. Because what I will say is most of the XDR MSSPs that are out there is more about the respond portion, more service level agreements portion. And to me, but if we can learn to understand their business language, then we can map or translate that to our technical effort that we're providing them. We can build trust through being transparent, and then we can also move to measurable outcomes. We can enable renewal and upsell conversations with the evidence. So, by way of us seeing what's in their environment, when it comes time for renewal, because everything's been based on risk reduction, or metrics or KPIs that matter to the customer through Secion's BI360 that they have, then we can turn around and provide that evidence to them that they've moved across a journey, right? Month over month, year over year, that they're actually getting better in their security. But again, that's a pivot. That's more protection level emphasis versus just, hey, we're going to respond to this thing. And then support strategic planning and scheduled reviews, right? So we're more active in our monthlies or quarterlies with them because we have this evidence to be able to show them. And then we can be a participant in their strategic planning long term. So maybe they bought into the platform, but they couldn't take it all in. Well, we can then become part of the discussion that if you add this, you get this X reduction in risk. Because we have the evidence that we've done with other customers, right? So we could be able to provide that level of detail to them. And then honestly, as an MSSP, we differentiate ourselves from other providers who are only offering simply alert monitoring or just standard service level agreements. So as I wrap up here, and I'll take some questions from Chandra, really PLAs or protection level agreements help us define expectations. To me, that's key. There are so many times in my career that I've gotten twisted around the axle with a customer who was upset because they thought we were doing something for them and we were not. We oftentimes put this level of effort back on our technical account managers our account executives. And that's a struggle because they sold something to the client, and then 3 years down the road, maybe they had regime changes within the organization, leadership got swapped out, and then the expectations get lost. It's on us as service providers to keep those expectations front and center so they understand what it is they're providing and what we're not providing, right? And I think we get in trouble when there's an incident or event and the expectations weren't met. The ODMs, or outcome-driven metrics, help prove overall lasting impact, right? They allow us to focus in on metrics that matter to the customer, and because they matter to the client, they could then go show that to leadership. That is also another pinch point for me sometimes. The person you're dealing with may not be the person that really needs to have the understanding of what it is we're doing. And so if we can understand that language of business, that language of the leadership and the board, we can provide to them, the person who's our main contact, really key information around metrics and other things that they could provide to the board and upper leadership C-suite that really sets a tone. Right? We're trying to say that we're back here doing these things, but it doesn't get translated well. And it's on us to be able to map that to the language that the business is using. And then lastly, just XDR is a promise. I mentioned that earlier. It's not just a platform content. It's not just a bunch of widgets and feature sets that Sekion has went out and thoughtfully put together. But what I'll tell you is what I've found is when you have a conversation with a client and illustrate what we're trying to solve. So use cases, ransomware, a ransomware alert is really a great one to even start with. So we help define what ransomware is, and then we walk that through how the platform is protecting against ransomware. Rather, oftentimes we open up a ransomware alert and we're looking at see what the platform found, see what it did, like it popped an alert. That's great. But if we fundamentally translate the why behind the platform, I think that better sits in the customer's mind of not only that we differentiate ourselves as Avium, but that the platform differentiates itself from other vendors. So I'll stop right there, Chandra, and see if you've got any questions. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, this was extremely helpful. I'm pretty sure everyone on the call highly appreciate that. That hey, you don't want to just kind of, because this is a people, process and technology kind of like comes last, but all have to work together in the sync to make the difference, and customer has to see the outcome.
That's right.
One thing actually wanted to ask you, Keith, as you are having a conversation, or anybody on this call, whether they are cybersecurity professional or even they are the business owner who are driving the decisions, one thing always comes out to be is like, like let's say you just kind of had added ransomware discussion, that's right? Whether it is a ransomware or intellectual property theft, or even just like a recon and whatever the people are doing about their organization, any organization. What we have seen in the industry that because in the position Sekion is and Sekion partners are, they can always see that even the other set of the other product or services where they are intervening it, and most of the time we see that those solution, even if they had opportunity to intervene earlier into the attack, they let the attack develop to the point where they can discuss that, hey, we have stopped your ransomware when the rapid file access are happening to encrypt the data. And it's always kind of debatable that one side you can debate that what you had said, that hey, you want to stop it very early in the game so they don't have to go through that. Other side is like, hey, at what point you want to, so still you can show your value as well. So I'd love to get your opinion. We have an opinion I had shared yesterday with all of our participants, but love to see your side opinion, because you have been in cybersecurity for 2 decades. you have serviced probably tens of thousands of customers over those years. So love to hear from you that what is your opinion on that and what you are seeing more and more in the market,
Yeah, it's interesting. I just had this conversation with the CIO of a manufacturing company last night, and he had went down a road where he was working with a security XDR vendor, and the vendor just wanted to put endpoint detection out on to his network, so he wanted to cover off all his workstations and his servers. And he also wanted to hook into some cloud entity, maybe Microsoft 365. And the customer responded to him and says, well, I appreciate this, but what happens if the person who's coming into the network comes in through a different mechanism? Let's say they jumped over on the OT side. He said, how do I then protect, what's happening on the IT side? Like, how do I, because you guys aren't taking all my stuff. Like, you don't take the switch data. You're not looking at my firewall. And the response was, well, Mr. Customer, we can do all that, but it's going to charge you a lot more because those are extra. And he says, well, my concern is, why didn't you start with security first, holistic? And instead, we're just trying to sell me by covering up just my endpoints. And he said he decided he turned away from that vendor because they didn't care about him holistically. They just cared about the sell. And I think for me, that has always been my mantra as a business. Like, we understand it's on us to educate the client what total 100% security looks like. They make the choice. The customer is involved in that choice, whether or not they're going to downshift that security. But we've educated them first on that decision. So by way of, it's a dance, Chandra, I know you know this. It's a dance between cost of the platform and the security that's being provided. So what we try to do as best we can is look for what the FBI and CISA says that are the attack vectors externally. They put out some great advisories. They always put out really nice guidance. And so if we spend time around, say, the SSL VPN coverage, or maybe RDP or remote desktop services, Citrix, others, their backup platforms being others. If we can spend time there making sure that we have visibility into those things. So if it's SSL VPN technology, it's probably a firewall that we want to take, right? We want to be able to cover up as much of the key critical things as possible if the customer can't take all things. And so, again, we're trying to educate them on, one, the threat landscape. Two, it's not just what Avium says, it's what the industry is saying. And here's the FBI and CISA. Here's some data backing it up. And then thirdly, the customer has skin in the game from a risk perspective. They've got to step forward, right, in that discussion and say, you know what, I appreciate all this. We don't have the budget, but I'll go seek the budget, but it may not come until the following year. No problem. At least good security is better than no security. And then we've mapped a plan, right, to move you into a better security posture, based on your budget. But again, it's risk. If I go back to the conversation today, it's all risk. And we need the customer to accept some of that risk. And we write it back into our agreements so they understand that, hey, we're not providing you total coverage. We're only providing you partial. So there could be a time where a threat gets in the environment and we don't see it in time. So our mean time to whatever, detect it, is longer because we don't have understanding of those assets. So at the end of the day, to me, if we can continue to educate customers in a more thoughtful way, then I think we better the planet from a security threat perspective.
I think it's really well said that, hey, there is education is the key, that educated put the things into the writing in there, and then it's like, hey, this is the kind of what you want to be. If you don't have a budget, we have a good, better, and the best options for you, and select one of those to get started. And we will take you there. It's like another thing is, Keith said something very powerful, and I want to repeat it because what he pointed out is, a lot of people still are not being educated, no matter whether they are at the big companies or the small companies. They still kind of think into the silos, so they will like, okay, I got the endpoint, it will cover everything. Then we got firewall or some GTNA stuff, it will cover everything. And there is a lot of threat vectors who can go around it and get through them. And that's why basically it's like this good, better, best comes into the picture. And it's up to us to educate the customers, so that way customer does not get upset when something has kind of gone through those. They don't just get upset that, hey, why did not you kind of like guard this thing, and makes kind of like, life tough for everyone. So just understanding the risk they are taking and how we can help them, because you see, definitely as he is pointing out, there is a cost to everything, but its cost is not prohibitive compared to what the other peoples have been going through their best of the breed and silos and all that. So we have a better approach, but at the same time we should not claim that if somebody does not have everything being brought in together and look into the common context and situational awareness, we cannot go and just kind of say that, hey, you got a good best cyber security when they are not even a good one. So I'll say it's a good learning lesson for all of us. What Keith has shared from his almost 2 decades of experience, and I'm pretty sure there is a lot more lessons he can share with us, and we'll always look forward because he is one of the driving force behind a lot of innovation we bring into the platform. A lot of things you see at the multi-tenancy, multi-tier tenancy, how you are able to quickly get to what is happening. Those he has been driver. We have been very lucky to be working with him for last probably 8+ years, maybe 9 years. All the way when he was with Sonic Wall, then he was a cyber security leader at Sardent, logically COO, and then today he is with OBM leading the cyber security business there. So it's a great learning lesson for not only for us, but we are taking those lessons and translating it and making sure that our rest of the partners kind of get benefit from his kind of experience as well. And last time you guys remember that he has done evaluation of multiple platform in the industry. So he did not just went and say, okay, hey, Sakyan is the platform I'll go with. He looked into it, many platform. He put his analysis in there, and then based on his analysis, he came up and said, hey, Sakyan platform is where I'm going to be building a lot of my expertise and my team expertise to offer those good, better, best services to the customer. So, and a lot of things he has done in the people process and all that he has pulled together. And I think everybody should be in, whoever is starting their journey, and those who have been even in the business, it's a good learning lesson. We get it, plus we want to make sure others get it as well around the world, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel, Keith, you want to add some final thoughts?
No, I think for me, I think we're all kindred spirits on the call today. I mean, that's why we're here. What I find is we're trying to. Well, let me say this. I think the more that we can educate clients, to a certain extent, right? If we have to understand. Do they understand what I'm telling them, right? So then we have to make adjustments. But the more that we can illustrate that we care about what they care about, right? We have to dig into their business and understand what type of things that person we're talking to needs to project upwards to someone else. Everyone has a boss, right?
Yeah.
If you're married, that's probably your wife. But what I will share with you is that because of that, we have to bring that into the conversation. Like we have to seek, well, what's their win? What is it that they're trying to get out of this? Because we know what the person we're talking to is trying to get out of it. They want more peace of mind. But what about the person that they report to? And the more we can focus there, then I think we end up in a situation where we can start, again, speaking their language as a business. So,
Thank you.
I do appreciate your time today, Shonda.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. That's extremely powerful. I see there is a question going on, so if people can answer those questions, that will be good. Really appreciate. And I'm going to welcome Kshitij Kathuria to our next fire chat. So in this one, just to give you guys idea, I know that people are answering some questions and all that. I'll give them 30 seconds and then I'm kind of going to be introducing Kshitij and we'll do a fireside chat because the amount of the things we all can learn from Kshitij is I always kind of, whenever I have a discussion with him, every word coming out of his mouth becomes, it's like, wow, that's something, it's like if everybody is doing, that will make world much more safer. So let's give it like maybe 20 more seconds and then we will transition,
Sounds good.
Okay.